here today to walk you through the steps of a really simple and fun art project you can do with some things around the house. So the project that we are going to work on today is called Symmetrical Watercolor Coffee Filters. Now I know that sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, I promise. Before we get started, I think we should refresh our brains as to what the word symmetrical really means. So symmetrical means that something is the same on both sides. For example, if you were to look at a butterfly's wings side by side, you would notice that they are probably exactly the same. So because a butterfly's wings are exactly the same on both sides, that means that they are symmetrical. When we finish our projects, you will be able to see how our projects are symmetrical or the same on both sides. So now that we remember what symmetrical really means, we can jump into the project. So here we go. Okay, so now that we're ready to get started, let's go through the materials that we'll need to get the activity done. First, you'll need a towel, or a tablecloth, or newspaper, or something just to lay out on the table because we're using water later on. Next, you'll need a coffee filter. You will also need a spray bottle filled with water, and markers. These don't have to be a certain type of brand, just any kind of markers you have at home. So the first thing that you'll want to do is try your best to flatten your coffee filter out. It's okay if it doesn't get perfectly flat. Once it's as flat as you can get it, you're going to want to fold your coffee filter in half. Once it's folded in half, you can open it back up. The only reason we folded it in half is because we're going to be only coloring on one of the halves. So I figured that it would just be easiest to see where the middle is. Now we're ready to start coloring. So now is when you can take out your markers. You can bring out whatever colors you want. These just happen to be 3 of my favorites, so these are the ones I'm going to use. So you can use whatever colors you want, and you can use more than just 3 colors. When you color, you're only going to be coloring on one half of the coffee filter. So when I color, I'm only going to be coloring on this side, and this side is going to stay blank. It's going to stay white. Another tip is when I color, I'm going to leave some white spaces. I'm not going to color the whole side in. The reason for that is when we spray the water onto the coffee filter, the marker's going to bleed. It's going to spread through parts of the coffee filter. So I'm gonna leave white spaces so that you can see the colors bleed through the coffee filter easier. When you are happy with the design you made on your coffee filter, we're gonna fold it in half again. And now is when you can grab your spray bottle filled with water, and you're gonna spray it all over your coffee filter. You don't have to use a ton of water, because the more water you use, the flimsier the paper will be, and we don't want your coffee filter to rip. So once you have your water sprayed onto your coffee filter, you can take your hands and you can kind of flatten and spread the water out. And you can already kind of see that the colors are bleeding through the white spaces of the coffee filter. Now you can flip it over, and you might see some little white spaces that aren't quite wet yet. You can take your spray bottle again and just spray those dry spots. And then we'll take our hands and flatten out and spread the water around. When you don't see any more dry spaces, now you can carefully open up your coffee filter. You might notice now that your coffee filter is pretty thin. It might feel like it could rip any moment. So you'll just have to be careful with it until it's completely dried. Now that our symmetrical watercolor coffee filter is complete, you may have already noticed the symmetry. If you remember from the beginning of this video, symmetry means that something is the same on both sides. When we had our artwork folded and then we sprayed the water on top, the markers from one side transferred to the other side, and now it looks identical on both sides. And now our project is complete. I hope you all had fun creating our symmetrical watercolor coffee filters. Thanks for watching!